Hello, my name is Kian Barbieri. I'm a jazz player. I'm doing this series called ABCs of Jazz, where I play one piece of jazz music for you each day for each letter of the alphabet. I have to apologize because today we're doing N, which I should have done. Well, I should have been uploaded out here a long time ago, but basically right after the day after M, I made N, but I accidentally put it in time lapse mode. So obviously no sound for that or anything. So I had to completely redo it. I just kept forgetting about it. But either way, we're doing this now. So we're on A Night in Tunisia. That is the name by Dizzy Gillespie, which I actually haven't gotten a chance to talk about Dizzy Gillespie. So let me tell you about it. First, some context for the time. So, Dizzy Gillespie is one of the best bebop jazz musicians out there, and one of the most iconic. Which first, basically, about his kind of context of the time period. This was in like a very awkward phase, basically. Where bebop was basically being discovered and tried by all these big jazz musicians, but it was like the public didn't like it, and the big jazz musicians, they loved it, but most people didn't. For the more experienced jazz musicians that were into traditional jazz but didn't like this bebop, they said it felt sporadic and random. And they didn't like the way it felt, especially because the way chords are set up. In traditional jazz, it's much easier to predict where the melody is going than bebop when it feels like, oh, it's random, I can't tell what's happening. And the biggest thing was that the public didn't like it because they couldn't dance to it. And that was everything back then. If you couldn't dance to it, what was the point of the music? Now, obviously, that's not true, but the problem is that since they couldn't dance to it, because the reason when everything was just so different and just, random, to the untrained ear, tickets weren't selling, shows weren't, people weren't going to the jazz shows, and everything was sucking at that point. And so, Dizzy Gillespie is the most important person when it came to bridging the gap between bebop and the public. So Dizzy Gillespie, he's a trumpet player, by the way. He was not only a great musician, but he had the charisma, the smile. He was funny. He had that stage presence, and the songs that he wrote, he did it such to set out to prove that bebop can be just as danceable as any other kind of music out there. And, well, he succeeded. Especially, the big thing was his personality. And that's what brought everybody into this kind of jazz. That's what made everyone love it. And there's so many things that, a lot of things that are iconic about him, mostly is that the way he played his trumpet, he'd always have puffed cheeks when he played, and he'd always have a horn that, the horn of his trumpet would be bent upwards, which is something that trumpet teachers would always tell you not to do. Don't play with your cheeks puffed up, don't play with damaged horn. And Dizzy's like, screw that, I'm gonna do that myself. And either way, he was one of those extremely experimental and just out there kind of guy. If there was something you could do with trumpet, he would do it. One of his best quotes is, "It's taken me my entire life to learn what not to play." And that just kind of sums up his entire trumpet playing experience. And it's just the kind of player he is. Let's see. Yeah. But either way, I was going to be doing Night in Tunisia, which is one of his songs. This is a Latin piece, which I've talked about Latin before in the past. How it's a lot more strict and just kind of straight, as opposed to a swing feel. Even then, it's still the bebop kind of era. But this isn't a bebop song. It really isn't. Either way, I'm going to play it for you. And see tell me how it sounds.